Good morning. Today is Friday, October 23rd, and the lesson that we are going to be working on today is lesson 19, and we are going to analyze a poem today. So, if you guys remember what we did in class on yesterday, what we did is we started reading the part 2 of Fahrenheit 451, and we kind of looked at how an author is helping to develop themes in the text and how he is developing Montag, which is our main character. Today, what we are going to do is we're actually going to read a poem. The title of this poem is Barter. And what you guys are going to do is you're going to analyze how this author is going to use imagery and figurative language to develop a theme. And then what we're going to do is, as always, we're going to relate this back to Fahrenheit 451 to see how these themes kind of connect. So, in order to do this, you are going to need a few materials today, which have already been provided for you in the classroom. So, I'm going to exit this presentation here to show you where these things are. So, you will need a copy of Fahrenheit 451. If you are a virtual student, this is already provided for you in the classroom, under unit text and resources. And these are all the documents that we are going to be working with today. So here you actually have a copy of the poem that we're going to be reading and analyzing. You have the handout that we're going to be working with. And you have your central idea and theme tracker that we are going to fill out at the end of this lesson on today. So going back to my presentation over here. So the first thing that I kind of want to talk to you guys about is I want you guys to understand what the meaning of the word barter means before we actually get into the text. So I want you guys to kind of think about it for a second before I actually tell you what barter means. Have you ever heard of the word barter, and how has it been used before maybe? So I'm going to give you guys a few seconds to think about that. So barter literally means exchanging goods or services without the use of money. So you may have heard this term used in social studies when you guys are talking about economy or economics, or if you haven't made it that far, because you guys are just ninth graders, so you may not have been exposed to the term yet. But that is what the term barter means. It means to exchange goods or services without the use of money. So I'll give you guys an example here. Say for instance, I am a hairstylist, and then I have another friend, a good friend of mine who is a makeup artist. So, as opposed to us exchanging money for our services, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do her hair, and in exchange, she is going to do my makeup. So, that would be an example of bartering. So, now that you guys know what it means, what barter means, I want you guys to go ahead and take a look at the chart that we're going to be working on for class today. Again, it is attached right here. This is the chart we were going to be working with. I'm going to open this with Google Doc, and let me use my other extension over here so I can see two things at once. And if we look at the slide, it tells us to complete the T on your poetry analysis chart. So the T is right here, the first box that you see. And it says, before reading the poem, make a prediction about what the poem is about based on the title. So we know that the title of the poem is Barter. So what I want you guys to do is, as you're going through this lesson, I want you guys to think about, before we even read the poem, what do you guys think that this poem might be about based on the title of the poem? And that is what you are going to put in this box right here. So I'm not going to fill this box or this chart out for you completely, because I want you guys to have some chance to practice with this and this analysis, because this is going to be very important, because as we get to the end of our unit and we complete our unit assessment, you guys are definitely going to have to analyze and assess different texts to try to gain information from it. So this is an important skill that we need to develop. So I'll give you guys about 30 seconds or so to tell me what it is that you think this poem is about based on the title. So I hope everyone has had a chance to fill in their T box. The next thing that we are actually going to do is we are actually going to read the poem. So we are going to read the poem Barter, and after we finish reading, we are going to fill in this part right here that says paraphrase. So this is the P. So after we finish reading the text, you guys are going to paraphrase, which means you're going to put the poem in your own words, line by line. So now we need to look at our actual poem. We need to look at the poem so that we can read it. So this copy of the poem again has been provided for you in classroom, and what you're going to do is you're going to paraphrase it after we have read it. So it says, life has loveliness to sell, all beautiful and splendid things, blue waves whiten on the cliff, soaring fire that sways and sings, and children's faces looking up, holding wonder like a cup. Life has loveliness to sell, music like a curve of gold, scent of pine trees in the rain, eyes that love you, arms that hold you, and for the spirit to still delight, holy thoughts that star the night. Spend all you have for loveliness, buy it and never count the cost. For one white singing hour of peace, count many a year of strife well lost. And for a breath of ecstasy, give all you have been or could be. So now what you are going to do after I have just read that poem is you're going to look at this poem line by line and translate it, which means you're going to put it in your own words. So for example, I will start here and it says, life has loveliness to sell. So what does that mean to you? So loveliness, if I'm thinking about the word, I know that means beautiful or attractive things. So I'm going to say life has beautiful and attractive things. That is how I would paraphrase the first line of this poem. Now, you guys are going to continue to paraphrase until you get to the very end of the poem. So, I want to give you guys another example. So, it says blue waves, all beautiful and splendid things. So, everything, how I would paraphrase this is I would say everything in life has some beauty to it. That is how I would paraphrase the second line of this poem. And then you're just going to keep going until you reach the bottom. So, what I would do is I would continue to I would continue to paraphrase my poem, and I'll give you guys about 10 minutes to do so to finish paraphrasing the poem before we come back, and then we will move on to the next box, which talks about connotation. So, spend about 10 minutes doing that. Okay, so I think we have had a enough time for you guys to go in and paraphrase that. And if not, you can always come back at the end of the lesson and finish that. So now, one thing that I do want to discuss with you guys is this term connotation. It says connotation. What words or phrases stick out to you? Look for patterns in figurative language, imagery, and sound elements. So when we think about connotation, we really want to kind of think about how does this term make you feel as a whole? When we think about the term barter, do you think barter has a positive or a negative connotation? Or it might just be neutral. Could it be positive, negative, or neutral? So, if I'm thinking about the term barter, which simply means just to trade something fairly, I would think that that would have a neutral connotation. So, for me, in my box, I would put the word barter has a neutral connotation. Has a neutral connotation. So, that is what I would add in my C box. Now, when we look at A, this is talking more about the attitude and the tone. It says, notice the speaker's attitude toward the subject of the poem. This is the author's tone. So it says over here that life has loveliness to sell, all beautiful and splendid things, blue waves whitening on a cliff, soaring fire that sways and sings, and children's faces looking up, holding wonder like a cup. So when we look at specific lines in this poem, what do you think is the author's attitude towards this poem? How does the author feel about this subject? And that is what you're going to put in the attitude and tone box. How does this author feel about the subject that she is speaking on? So we see that she is speaking on loveliness. What is her attitude towards this topic? Is she supportive of it? Is she saying that this is a bad thing? What is it that this author is trying to convey to her audience? So I'll give you a few seconds to type that in there before we move on to S. So now when we focus on S, this one here is mainly focused around the mood that the author or that this poet is creating with her poem. So if you look over here at her poem and you look at specific lines in the text, what kind of mood is she creating? Is this a happy mood, a sad mood, an indifferent mood? What kind of mood is she creating? And what kind of words help you understand how she creates that mood? So if I'm looking at some of the vocabulary that she uses in the poem, she uses terms like loveliness, beautiful, splendid, uh, children's faces looking up, holding wonder, peace, ecstasy. So she's using all kinds of positive words. So for me, this poet over here, this poet is creating a hopeful and happy mood. She does this by using specific diction, and diction we know is word choice, diction, and also some figurative language. This helps the reader understand both her attitude towards the topic okay. So I said that this poet is creating a hopeful and happy mood. She does this by using specific diction and also some figurative language. This helps the reader understand both her attitude towards the topic and how it makes her feel. So that is definitely a good example of how this author is creating a mood here. Now, if we look at the T, I want you guys to do this again independently. It says to examine the title again. So now that you have actually read the poem, what it wants you to do is it wants you to answer the question: does the meaning of the poem change for you? Does the meaning of the title change now that you have actually read the poem and you know that what the poem is about? So you're going to answer that right here in this box, and then we're going to move on to themes. Okay, so hopefully you guys were able to fill in your information in that box. Now, the last thing that we have to talk about here are some of the things that are revealed in this poem over here. So, this poem talks definitely about loveliness. And again, loveliness simply means finding life and finding beauty in all the things that are around us. So, one of the themes that I would say that this poem definitely showcases is the theme of choosing loveliness. So that is one that you can definitely put: choosing loveliness. And down here, I'm going to put that this basically means choose. So what I put for the theme was choosing loveliness. Choose the things that life is selling. Find beauty in the things around you. Now, that is definitely the theme that the author, that the poet who wrote this poem is trying to convey to her audience. Now, I want us to kind of think about something before we move forward, because again, we always want to connect these things that we are doing and the activities that we do in class back to our major text for this unit, and that is Fahrenheit 451. So here, if you look at the question on the screen, it says make connections between the themes barter and Fahrenheit 451. So I kind of want to give you guys a few minutes to think about that, and then we'll come back and discuss it before we get ready to wrap up the lesson for today. Okay, so if we're thinking about this in terms of themes that have been presented in Fahrenheit 451, what I really want us to focus on is how we can contrast the message in the poem to Millie and the theme of technology being able to take control of us if we allow it to. So, in the book that we're reading, Fahrenheit 451, we know that Millie cannot see the loveliness that life has to offer, even though Montag is constantly trying to stress this to her. So she cannot see this. So, for example, if we think back to the text, there's actually specific evidence that helps to support this. So we know that one thing that one piece of evidence says that, and besides, if Captain Beatty knew about those books, she thought about it. Her face grew amazed and then horrified. He might come and burn the house and the family. That's awful. Think of our investment. Why should I read? What for? So Millie cannot see the loveliness that is around her. Montag is trying to stress to her the importance of reading these books to kind of gain knowledge and understanding so that she won't just be conforming to society, but she cannot see that. Like she cannot see past what is going on, and she is enthused with her use of technology. So she's like, okay, well, why do I even have to read books? I have all this technology that I can use. So we can definitely see the contrast between what the author is revealing in Barter and how Bradbury is kind of shaping Millie as this character who we see is not placing an emphasis on loveliness. And we know that the society also in Fahrenheit 451 is one in which taking the time to observe and enjoy the things around them is not really a priority. So people have become so uh, self consumed in thinking about their own selves and having let technology take over their lives that they're not able to enjoy the simple things around them. So that is one thing that the author here is stressing the importance of. So when we think about the poem Barter, all she is talking about is how we need to admire and how we need to take account of all the things that are happening around us, the simple things in life that we can find happiness and we can find beauty in. But the people in Fahrenheit 451, we see that this is not occurring in that society. Now, the only one person who is an anomaly here and who is actually exhibiting what the poet of Barter is trying to say was Clarice. So Clarice seemed to be the only character in Fahrenheit 451 who lived the way that the speaker in Barter is talking about, because we know she was very observant and she was always taking in things in nature and all of those things. So Clarice appears to be the only character in Fahrenheit 451 who is even embodying any of these characteristics that the poet in Barter is talking about. So I kind of want you guys to make that connection between the themes in Barter and Fahrenheit 451. So we seem to know that the people in the society, except Clarice and maybe now Montag, as he's kind of developed throughout the text, they are the only ones who seem to place an emphasis on loveliness. Everyone else is so self consumed and obsessed with their technology that they cannot appreciate the little things that are around them. So that is the connection that I wanted you guys to make here between Fahrenheit 451 and this poem that we just read. So the last thing that we have to do in class today is, hopefully, as we went through this lesson, you guys were able to fill out your poetry analysis because you guys are actually going to turn this in. So hopefully you guys were able to fill this out completely. If not, please make sure that you have it turned in by Friday. The next and final thing that we are going to do today is we are going to update the central idea tracker to include Barter. Now, up until this point, we really have not worked too much with this central idea and theme tracker, but I think it's very important for us to kind of see those relationships between the supplemental text that we're reading and our main text for the unit. So what you guys are going to do is you're going to go and fill in this chart. So up until this point, the text that we have read are The Joy of Reading and Writing, Superman and Me by Sherman Alexie. We have read Barter. We just finished reading that. That is the poem. And on Wednesday, we read The Great Imagination Heist by Reynolds Price. So, what you guys are going to spend the rest of class time today doing is you guys are going to update this central idea and theme tracker. So, if you look at the central idea and theme tracker in the second column here, what it wants you to do is you have to identify the central ideas and themes that are being presented in the text. So, if we're thinking about The Joy of Reading and Writing, Superman and Me by Sherman Alexie, central ideas or themes, what you're going to do is you're going to put whatever the central idea of that text is. And then, if we move to the third column, here it asks us to talk about what kind of literary devices or elements, so that means things like figurative language, irony, allusions, all of those different things. What kind of elements or literary devices does that author use to help develop this central idea or theme? And always, once we have identified these devices, we have to go and find some textual evidence. So if I said that the literary device that Sherman Alexie used here was irony, then I need to find some textual evidence that contains some irony in it and explain how that is relating to the central idea here. And you're going to do that for three texts: The Joy of Reading and Writing. You're going to do it for Barter, which we just read, and you're also going to do it for The Great Imagination Heist. So at the end of class today, you should have completed your poetry analysis handout, and you should also have completed 3 rows on your central idea theme tracker. So you should have The Great Imagination Heist filled in, Barter filled in, and The Joy of Reading and Writing by Sherman Alexie. So that is what you guys should spend the rest of class time working on today. So hopefully you guys are able to accomplish that in today's class. So In this lesson today, basically you learn how the poet's message is life is full of beautiful things and you need to take the time to experience them. So we know that the individuals who are characters in Fahrenheit 451, most of them are not taking the time to do this because they're so self consumed with themselves and with the technology that is around them that they are not taking advantage of the beautiful things that are around them and the simple things in life. The only character that appears to be doing that was Clarice, and now that we know that she is no longer a character in the story because she has passed away, we know that she was the only one who was really taking heed to what this poet was trying to get across in her poem. So that was our whole entire lesson for today. We want to connect those themes so that when we get to our CWT, we have a good foundation for our writing and so that we also develop the skill of analyzing and assessing text to find meaning. So that is going to end our lesson for today. Again, remember to make sure that you turned in your poetry analysis handout and that you also have updated your central idea and theme tracker. And I hope you all have a wonderful Wolverine Friday.